It started on a gray morning when the world felt heavy and quiet, like even the sun had given up trying. A man named Jack Reynolds sat alone in his rusted pickup truck on the edge of a quiet road outside Lincoln, Nebraska. His hands were rough, his eyes tired, and his heart, just about empty. Once, Jack had everything: a loving wife, a small farm, and dreams that stretched further than the cornfields. But after a tragic accident took his wife 2 years ago, Jack was left to raise their son, Ethan, alone. That morning, he was on his way to a job interview at a local mechanic shop, his last shot to pay off months of overdue bills. But fate had other plans. As he slowed at a rural gas station, he noticed something strange: 2 little girls, maybe 6 years old, sitting on the curb beside a broken-down SUV. They were identical, wearing matching pink jackets, their faces streaked with tears and dirt. Jack frowned, stepped out, and approached carefully. "Hey, sweetheart, you two okay? Where's your mom or dad?" One of them, trembling, looked up and whispered, She left us." Jack's stomach sank. "What do you mean she left?" "She said she was coming back," the other said, her small voice cracking, "but she didn't. It's been all night." Jack looked around. The station attendant confirmed the SUV had been there since yesterday evening. Their stepmom had stopped for gas, went inside to grab snacks, and never came back. The police were notified, but with no sign of the woman or contact info, the case fell through the cracks overnight. Jack couldn't just walk away. He knelt, wrapping his jacket around the shivering twins. "You girls hungry?" he asked softly. They nodded. That was the beginning, a single decision that changed everything. Jack took them home for the night while authorities looked into the situation. Ethan, his 10-year-old son, was cautious at first, watching the twins with a protective frown. But that night, as the girls sat quietly at the table, Ethan pushed over his plate. "You can have my fries," he said shyly. It was the first time Jack saw a smile on his son's face in months. Days passed. No family came forward for the twins. Their stepmother had vanished completely. Child Services planned to place them in foster care, but the girls clung to Jack when the social worker arrived. One of them sobbed into his chest, begging, "Please don't let them take us. You make pancakes better than Mommy did." Jack froze, those words tore through him. He looked at the social worker and said something he hadn't planned. "They can stay, I'll take them." The decision made no logical sense. Jack could barely pay his bills. His truck was dying. He was a single dad already fighting to keep his own head above water. But logic doesn't matter when your heart recognizes something real. The early months were chaos. 3 kids under one roof, constant noise, spilled milk, laughter, and tears. Jack barely slept, juggling 2 part-time jobs and his mechanic side work at night. He'd fall asleep at the kitchen table with invoices stuck to his arm. But every morning, the twins would run in shouting, "Daddy Jack, wake up." Their joy became his fuel. Then one winter evening, a storm hit. Power went out across the county. Ethan had a fever, and one of the twins, Lily, started having trouble breathing. Jack's heart pounded as he bundled her in blankets, driving through snow with only headlights cutting through the blizzard. At the doctors rushed her in. He sat outside the room, shaking, hands clasped, praying harder than he had since his wife's funeral. Hours later, a nurse came out smiling. "She's okay. You got her here just in time." That night, sitting by her bed, Jack whispered, "You're not going anywhere again. Sweetheart, you hear me? You're mine now." He meant it. Over the next year, life began to bloom again. Jack found steady work at the mechanic shop, Ethan started helping with chores, and the twins, Lily and Lucy, filled their small farmhouse with laughter. They loved to braid his hair, what little he had left, and left sticky notes on his lunchbox, "You're the best dad ever." But the story didn't end there. One afternoon, a woman appeared at the shop, the twins' biological mother. She had tears in her eyes and regret written all over her face. She said she'd made mistakes, married the wrong man, and lost herself. Now she wanted her daughters back. Jack's world froze. He looked at those twins, his girls, and his heart twisted. He had no legal claim, no paperwork, just love. But sometimes love speaks louder than blood. In court, the judge asked the girls where they wanted to live. Lucy squeezed Jack's hand and said, "We want to stay with Daddy Jack. He saved us." There wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. Even the judge took off her glasses to wipe her eyes before ruling in Jack's favor. "Mr. Reynolds," she said softly, "it seems these girls have already found their family." Years later, the little farmhouse became a home full of stories and sunlight. Jack would sit on the porch, watching Ethan teach the twins to ride bikes. He'd think about that cold day at the gas station, how a broken-down SUV and two frightened girls turned his whole life around. And when people asked how he managed to raise 3 kids alone, Jack always smiled and said, "They saved me more than I ever saved them." Because that was the truth. Sometimes, miracles don't arrive with thunder or light. Sometimes they come in pink jackets, holding each other's hands, waiting on a curb for someone with enough heart to stop and listen. If you're watching this right now, maybe life feels heavy, maybe you've lost something or someone you loved, remember Jack's story. Love has a way of finding you when you least expect it. Sometimes, the miracle you're looking for, is waiting for you to stop and care. If this story touched your heart, give it a like, share it, and subscribe for more real, emotional stories that remind us, kindness can still change the world, one soul at a time.